this week's episode of My Hero Academia. The young heroes from UA High School learn the hard way that fighting villains isn't always going to be easy. Was anybody else about to have a heart attack when you thought that Tsuyu, the frog girl, was going to be killed? Ugh, thank God. This episode is exactly what the doctor ordered. A lot of great action scenes, lots of tension, and focus not just on Izuku Midoriya, but all of the young heroes from UA High School. This was a fantastic episode of My Hero Academia, which has a great cliffhanger ending, and a lot of great little moments throughout the entire episode. A lot of things have been going down in this one, so let's just talk about all of the cool, individual, awesome events. First off, the three big villains in this arc apparently are that one shadow warp guy who goes by the name of Kurogiri, that one guy who's covered in hands goes by the name of Tomura, and that big disgusting black monster with the exposed brain goes by the name of Nomu. He's a bioengineered creature who not only apparently has a quirk, but he's also just plain super strong, and that allows him to beat down on Aizawa in this week's episode. But Kurogiri seems like he's going to be very important simply because he's going to allow the villains to make a quick escape. The thing is, though, Tenya is really damn fast, and he makes this huge dart for the door using his quirk and all of his abilities as Kurogiri is trying to swallow him up in shadow. It's a real breakneck sequence, and I love the fact that the other students managed to get involved in the battle, especially Ochako, who still continues to be, I think, one of the coolest female characters I've seen in a long time. And actually, that kind of goes for the whole series. All the female characters in this show are all sorts of kick-ass. Not only that, but you have Kyoka, you have Momo, you have Tsuyu. They're all awesome in their own way. And that's not even to, discredit the male characters. They're great too. In fact, I think one of the most surprising things about this episode is a scene where you have Katsuki Bakugo teaming up with that one dude who can actually harden his body. They're very similar characters in a sense, and it's great to see that they're actually starting to form a relationship, even if Katsuki Bakugo doesn't want this to happen. There's a great sequence where Kyoka, Momo, and Denki team up together and use all of their unique abilities. We get to learn a little bit more about some of their abilities. Like, Kyoka apparently can use her weird earplugs to plug them into these big amplifiers, which she can use to amplify her heartbeat, which can destroy things with like a big shockwave. You have Momo, who apparently can just create anything. That's her ability. So what she does is she creates this giant insulation blanket, which allows Denki to basically just electrify everything so that they won't get hurt. It also leads to a very big fan servicey scene where you get to see a lot of Momos. I wish we could spend more time with that one character who is half bird and can control shadows. I don't know why, but I just think that guy's really cool. Shoto is also just completely destroying everyone. No matter who fights him, he just always freezes him. He's definitely a little bit of a higher level than I think some of the other students, and that's saying a lot considering what Izuku Midoriya is capable of with the all-for-one abilities. And you know what? Let's go ahead and get to their story. It picks up immediately from the last episode where they defeated all those enemies in the water, and they slowly start to make their way over to Aizawa, thinking there's a possibility they might be able to help him. However, when they see the real villains come in, that's when they start to rethink what they're doing here. They really start to shit their pants here, because we get to see Nomu in action, who is this giant bioengineered monster who just wipes the floor with Aizawa. It doesn't matter if his quirk is actually dispersed because of his abilities, he can still just pummel him into the ground with his immense strength. Not to mention, you also have the character Tomura, who is finally getting involved in the battle, and it looks like at first that almost Aizawa might have an advantage in the battle, but apparently Tomura has the ability to make people just disintegrate and crumble away if he touches them, which makes his abilities incredibly dangerous. You get to see that a huge chunk of Aizawa's elbow is starting to disappear. You can start to see all the musculature underneath. It's real freaky deaky, even more so when they realize, oh shit, that one student ran away. He's about to tell the teachers, we gotta get out of here. But you know what? Before we leave, let's fuck up some of these students so that we can send a message to All Might. And when Tomura starts to dive towards Tsuyu and starts to grab her face, the scene was terrifying. You could see Izuku just realizing what could happen if he doesn't intervene, and he decides to jump in, deliver a big smash attack, which somehow does not destroy his arm, but he realizes that he doesn't hit Tomura, he ends up hitting Nomu, yes! And apparently this guy can withstand even abilities like that, which is a huge testament to his powers. They even say he's as powerful as All Might, and speaking of All Might, he shows up at the end, triumphant, but super pissed off. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of My Hero Academia? This one was action-packed with a lot of really great small moments, lots of little bits of comedy, and also lots of seriousness. By the end of the episode, Aizawa I thought was probably just going to be killed right here. All of his limbs are being broken, his quirk ability doesn't really seem to be working out for him all that much. Even when he uses it on Tomura, it's still a really big problem. And speaking of Tomura himself, he is just such a creepy villain. Just the overall look of the character alone, but just his personality is very dark and disturbing. Even going to the point where he might even try to kill that one character, Kurogiri, the guy who actually creates all the warps, but because he can do that, he is not going to go through with that. And the fact that all he has to do really is just touch you, that's it. I'm guessing, though, it probably takes a little while, because he blocks an attack from Aizawa, and then you can see that his arm starts to almost turn into stone, like it's turning gray, but then it starts to, like, crumble away. So he might actually have to hold on to you for a long period of time to actually finish you off. That being said, it's still a really devastating attack, because depending on where he grabs you could be really devastating. It looks like that scene in the intro where All Might is fighting against Nomu is going to come to light. Apparently this is all a preview for the big finale of the first season of My Hero Academia. All Might's going to be throwing down with Nomu, and I can't wait to see that, especially how much they've been building up that character. But he's essentially just a big mindless monster, so I have a feeling that All Might's just going to come in and wreck his world. And like I said, aside from the action, there were a lot of really great funny moments. The bromance that's forming between Katsuki Bakugo and that one dude who can harden his body. Not to mention all the great moments with Mineta. That character is freaking hilarious, especially at the end when he tries to embrace Suyu, only realizing that he's actually just grabbing onto her boobies. But she promptly tries to drown him. Anime sure does love casual sexual harassment jokes. But yeah, this was an action-packed, awesome episode of My Hero Academia, which all fans of the series should check out. Even if you read the manga version, you're definitely going to see something you like, and it might even get you pumped up to see the big final episode of this season. I can't wait to see how they're going to wrap things up. Hopefully they'll have a nice, good stopping point, and we'll be able to pick up from the story, hopefully later in the future. As it stands, I'm going to decide if I'm going to read the manga or not after I see the final episode. I still am not completely hooked by the series, but it's still entertaining me every week, and I want to know if I'm going to continue to watch, although I'm definitely getting there, especially with the introduction of these villains who are just so damned evil and the perfect opponents for some brand new, young, impressionable heroes. So I'm going to give this episode right here, this action-packed episode right here, this emotional episode right here, this awesome episode right here, a 5 out of 5. Check it out, My Hero Academia fans. You might see something you like. But if any of you did watch this week's episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. That's right, it's that time of the video where I ask you to subscribe and hit the like button and maybe even check out all our other cool videos. Make sure to do that. But guys, thank you again for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, stay dandy, baby.